wanna know his secret?
Hey guys, what's up? The Captain Star from the Tech Feed, and welcome to another episode of the Coding of the Interwebs. And today we're going to be learning something new. It's called functions. And if you are familiar with any other programming language, you can click on the annotation I'll put on the screen right now, and you can skip to the part where I teach you how to declare a function. But if you have not used any other programming languages, please stick around. I'll tell you what a function is, how to use it, and that kind of stuff. So, what you want to do is first you want to go into your PHP file here. And for example, suppose when you want to use a function is, for example, here, let's suppose you have to do this, okay? And so you have to create multiple buttons on your page that all have the same values. You need a button. It has to be, the name has to be my button, and your value has to be high, right? Just for example. Now, usually you'd have to copy and paste this multiple times, but there's a simpler way to do this inside of PHP. What you can do is you can create what is known as a function, and you can do what is known as calling a function, which is just a fancy way of saying using a function, and it will print it out again and again on your page every single time you call it. And the way you can do that is by declaring a function. And to declare a function, you type in this keyword. It's called function, and then after it you type in the name of your function. So this cannot have spaces, so I'll put in a function name. For example, I say create my button. And the way that you name functions, if they have multiple words in them, usually you don't have to do it this way, but this, like, the way most programmers do it is by putting the first word does not have a capital letter, the second word does have a first capital letter, and the third word does, fourth word does. All of them except for the first word have the first letter capitalized. That's just to, like, differentiate between them. It's just the way coders type it out. Now you can do this, and then you can go here and you'll put these curly braces that are above the square braces on your keyboard, and you can go here and you can tell it what you want to do. Now remember, we're working with PHP here. If you just straight up typed in input and you made the input tag there and stuff, that would not work because we are dealing with PHP and it would throw an error. For example, here I'll show you. Input, if I put in input, as you can see, input and then slash input like this, and we open up this page again. As you can see here, you'll see that you'll get a syntax error because of that. And what a syntax error basically means is that you're like, this code, this type of code does not exist. Like, the way you wrote it is not right. So what you want and what you need to do is to put HTML code inside of PHP. What you need to do is you need to use echo, which we use to print stuff on the screen or write stuff on the screen. And inside of here we can do it like this. Inside of these quotes we can put in our input tag, right? So, in Atom, it's a lot easier to do it like this. You can do boom, boom, my button. And by the way, the same way that you name functions is usually the same way you'll name classes, names, IDs, everything goes like that. And value will put high. And then just check this out. Just copy this whole thing. Just hit Control X so that cuts. And you can go over here, paste it. And there, that happens, right? And we have this that happens. Now, when we refresh, you'll see that, you see, here's one of the problems when you put HTML inside of echo and you use double quotes here. What it thinks is that this is one string, button is some kind of keyword or a number, and then this is another string on top of it. And then this is another string, and this is some variable or something, and then this is another string, and so on and so forth. And that's messed up, and it messes it up. because if you use double quotes on here on the outside and use double quotes inside of your HTML code, it kind of gets messed up. Now in HTML you need these double quotes, so what are you supposed to do? So there are two ways to do this. Either one way is you can put a backslash before one of the double quotes in each of these pairs of double quotes, and that will work, but I mean that's tedious because we have 3 of them and you have to do it to all 3. So is there an easier way? So yes, there is. What you can do is you can use single quotes instead of double quotes on the echo tag. So you can put single quotes here. Now make sure inside your HTML code you still use double quotes because HTML needs double quotes. But right here you can still use your single quotes to do this and to house this string. And now when we open this up, resend, and boom, we get no errors. But how come our page is blank? Didn't we just tell it to create this button on our screen? Well, we told it that this function, it will do this, but we never told it to use the function. We never called the function, as what programmers say. So to call a function inside of your PHP area, do not do it outside of your PHP. Do not just put it out here inside your body. You have to put it inside of your PHP. You call it like so. You can call it like by putting in create my button, and Adam will list it inside of your functions here after you create it, and hit enter. And then you want to put parentheses here, and you want to put a semicolon at the end, just like every other thing in PHP. You put a semicolon on the end. And then if you do it like this, and make sure you put parentheses here, and you put your name, your parentheses, and the semicolon, and you go back here and you do this, it gives you a button that says hi. But now you're wondering, wait, that is very complicated for something I could accomplish in just writing this one line of code, right? So yeah, it is. But you could also do something like this. But now all you need to do is, now if every single time you want to create another button, create my button, you just call create my button, and then you can go back here, refresh, resend, and now we have 2 of them. So you see, it's that simple. Now every single time I need to create this button, I can just call this function and it will do that. However, that comes up with a different problem, which is, what if every single time I create a button, I do not want it to have the same value? Because there are only so many times in my website will I want a button that says hi, right? So what you can do is you can do something else, and that's called passing a parameter to your function. And the way that you do that is you go here and you put in a variable name. So to create a variable, you put dollar sign, and you type in the name of the variable. So we'll call this dollar sign, for example, I don't know, we could call it, well, what will it be? So we'll call this dollar sign value. And over here, we can put in the value. We can replace this with, we can put here, and as you can see here, this is no longer part of the string, as you can tell, because of the different color text. And inside of here, what you can do is you can put dot space space dot space, and in between here you can put in your name of your variable, dollar sign value. And what this will do is it will basically say, okay, echo input type button, name equals my button, value equals, okay, now you're asking me to put whatever this dollar sign value is into this string, so we can do that. And then you can close the braces, and I want to output that out as HTML. And now you might be saying, okay, all well and good, but now how do I set my value of the button? What you can do is, now whenever you call the function inside these parentheses, just like how you put inside the parentheses here, you can say dollar, well, not dollar sign, you can put it inside of quotes, and you can say, I want, for example, I can say pizza, and over here I can say ketchup, and I can open this up, and as you can see, now we have one button that says pizza, one button that says ketchup. But again, wait, why would I want a button that has different values but still has the same name? So when I'm using my forum and I try to parse it, it'll be like, hey, why do you have my button as a name on multiple buttons? And if you do not know how to do form handling and why name is important, go back to the last video where I explained form handling. So name, I do not want something that has the same name every single time I create a button. So what you do here is you can say comma, $, and then you can say, for example, a name. So what this says is I do not only want value, I also want to supply a name to my function, or pass a parameter value and a parameter name. And over here I can replace this just like how we did the other time, and we can replace this with space dot space space dot space. Well, all that does is that it makes it so there's a space and a dot and then a space, and in between here you can put in $, name, and over here there's a space, a dot, and another space at the end, right? It's just like something you memorize, space dot space space dot space. It's just something that you memorize while you're coding. And then here, when you're calling it now, you may be wondering, wait, now how do I pass it 2 parameters? Well, how do you do it here? You do the same thing. You go here and you say name, and well, for your name you can say button, and down here we can say special button, right? Just like for example, and when you refresh, as you can see, it may look the exact same from the outside, but when we look at our HTML, which you can do by pressing Control U, it'll show you Firefox and Google Chrome and just about every browser will show you your code. And here it's showing us our code. It says this one has a name of button and this one has a name of special button. So when we do our form handling, we will get one which has the name of button and one that has the name of special button. So you can do things like that are really cool. So now instead of saying create my button, we can just call this create button. Because now you can literally use this to create any button. So if you have a program that has tons and tons of buttons, all you need to do is you need to do that, and then you can refresh, resend. All you will have here is you can just call this function create button. You can pass it the value of it, you can pass it the name of it, and it will create a button like that for you. And this is a powerful thing about functions. You can do many powerful things like this when you can, functions are necessary in any programming language, yet alone a web development language which doesn't really need many powerful features. But functions make coding a whole lot easier. Without functions, coding would have been way harder. As well as there are other things that functions are good at, which are really complicated, I will not get into right now, and I probably won't even be covering in this series considering how complicated they are. There's something called recursion, which you don't need to learn about, but it's like infinite loops with a function calling itself, and it's crazy. But there's so many cool things that you can do with functions, and functions are needed in any language, but functions are like a luxury in just about every language, and they make coding a whole lot easier. And of course they make your hands hurt less and stuff because you don't have to type as much, but still they're amazing, and you can accomplish right here we only put one line of code inside of the function. Usually when you declare a function, you'll be putting 10-20 lines of code that you're using multiple times inside of your code, and it organizes your code a lot better than if you just did it without making it into functions. In a sense, you can turn your code into multiple modules that function independently and can be able to work here. I can use this module, I can use this module, I can use this module, and then I can just call all these functions. So I can call my header function, I can call my main body function and my footer function, and the header function will put a heading on my website, the body function will make up the main body, the footer function will make the main footer, and things like that, right? Which makes your code look way more neat, and it makes it so that your code doesn't look as complicated, and when a different coder comes by to look at your code, it's not super cluttered, that they would be able to read it as well. While if you didn't use functions, it would be harder for a different coder to come over and look at your code and be like, oh, I have no idea what you're saying, I cannot help you because you're having these problems, blah blah blah. And even for yourself, later it will be harder for you to understand your code. And today I have kind of rambled on by like quite a bit, and I think it's time to end the episode. So as always, guys, never ever cut the feed of tech. Yeah.